Hello. This presentation is intended for managers and the workforce of petroleum and pipeline operations in Western Australia, both onshore and offshore. We'll be talking about the Petroleum and Geothermal Energy Operations Regulations, which from now on I'll call the PAGEO regulations. But remember, these regulations have not been proclaimed yet. They are still in draft as of the recording of this video on August 13th, 2021. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to be in these regulations, but I can tell you about what we think are going to be in these regulations. Also, I'm not going to be speaking about the Work Health and Safety Act itself, just about the PAGEO regulations. However, I will touch on the amendments to the Safety Levies regulations. There are three major themes that will stand out in this presentation. The first is that the PAGEO regulations will rationalize and simplify the existing legislation. The second is that the PAGEO regulations will preserve the safety case approach to safety legislation. And third, the general work health and safety regulations will not apply. Let's look at each of those in more detail. First, the PAGEO regulations will simplify the existing legislation. On the left of this diagram, you see the existing legislation. There are three acts that currently apply to petroleum and pipeline operations. There's one for onshore petroleum exploration and production, one for onshore pipelines, and one for offshore petroleum and pipelines operations. Each of those acts has different sets of regulations for each act. On the right side of this slide, you see the proposed PAGEO regulations, which incorporate all of the existing safety-related regulations of the existing acts. So it will simplify the existing legislation. Second, the PAGEO regulations will preserve the safety case approach while making the framework simpler. The first four bullet points on the left are what the various permissioning documents are called under the current three sets of legislation. They all do essentially what the safety case does. Under the PAGEO regulations on the right, instead of having four different types of permissioning documents, we'll have one type of permissioning document called a safety case. And on the bottom bullet point there, the diving safety management system will stay as it is. The third major theme is that the general work health and safety regulations will not apply to PAGEO work sites. However, a few of those regulations will be mirrored in the PAGEO regulations. These are provisions that really do apply across all work sites, so it makes sense that they should be the same regulations in all three sets of regulations. That is, the general regulations, the PAGEO regulations, and the mining regulations. So the same approach applies to the mining regulations. Let's go through a few other changes. The first is registered operators. Currently, there are registered operators for offshore facilities. With the introduction of the PAGEO regulations, there will be registered operators for onshore facilities as well. Under the amended levies regulations, it will be the registered operator who is charged for these levies. And right now, onshore drilling rigs are not considered petroleum facilities. But after the PAGEO regulations are in place, onshore drilling rigs will be considered petroleum facilities just like offshore drilling rigs. That means they will have to have registered operators and safety cases and they'll have to pay the safety levies. Since most onshore drilling rigs already do have safety management systems that are submitted in support of the bridging documents that apply to the title holders, this arrangement will make things simpler for those drilling rigs. Now, for the transition periods, the existing safety case will remain in force until the end of their 5-yearly lifespans, even after the proclamation date, which is the date on which the Act and regulations are proclaimed and come into effect. Revisions to safety cases will be assessed under the criteria of the current, that is right now, legislation for a 2-year grace period after the proclamation date, except for the 5-yearly revisions, which will be assessed under the criterion of the new PAGEO regulations. For operator nomination, there will be a 6-month grace period from the proclamation date before every facility has to have a registered operator. Now, for the levies, our intention is that there is no net change to the amount of the levies. In some cases, different parties might be charged. For example, under the upcoming legislation, the operator of an onshore drilling rig will be charged a levy, and the levy for the title holder will be reduced correspondingly, rather than being absorbed by the levy accountable to the drilling activity, as is currently the case. And during the transition period, when we're swapping over from whoever is currently charged the levy to the registered operator, there may be 2 notifications of assessment going out for the same period. That's because there will probably be 2 accountable parties during one levy period. We don't have any control over this. It depends on the proclamation date and the date when the operator is registered, but the net sum should remain the same. Finally, as I said, there are 3 major themes that come out of this presentation about the PAGEO regulations. The Petroleum and Geothermal Energy Operations Regulations will rationalize and simplify the existing legislation. The PAGEO regulations will preserve the safety case approach to safety legislation, and the general work health and safety regulations will not apply to PAGEO work sites. Thank you.